Right now on WTOL 11 Plus, we're tracking the potential for severe weather. It's Wednesday, April 2nd. I'm Kaylee Marentet.
And I'm Jeff Smith. You can see behind us, we've already seen a little bit of damage as this early round of rain and storms rolled through. In fact, this is video out of central Toledo. You can see a tree came down on a home on Fernwood, that is near Dorr and Detroit. Authorities say that the home sustained heavy damage. Luckily, nobody was hurt.
You can text us any photos of storm damage or interesting weather you see to 419-248-1100. That number is also on your screen. We're watching for any messages you share with us, and you might just see them featured on air or online. We have live team coverage now. Our WTOL 11 meteorologists have got you covered.
Yeah, Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers, also meteorologist John Birchfield. They are tracking what is still to come tonight. Let's start out with Chris. We're closing in on what we think could be the biggest threat for these storms tonight, Chris.
That's it, guys. Exactly right. Over the next hour or so is when those storms are really going to begin to near northwest Ohio. Now, what we have on radar right now is just a little activity in advance of that. Some showers that are drifting across the state line up into Michigan. Hillsdale to Lenawee County occasionally have a strike or two of lightning. These are not expected to erupt into anything severe at the present time. We're watching, though, very close what is happening to our west. So let me take you over to Indiana, and here's the area of concern. We've got a couple storms, one of which is tornado warned at this point, and that's the threat. We may get these lines of storms that develop, not only bringing some higher-end wind damage, but also the threat of some isolated tornadoes. So we're going to use a few of our tools. We'll zoom in a little closer to this one particular cell, and we'll highlight where we see that rotation. Because, again, not in our local area right now, but this is the complex that is headed a little bit closer to us. That tornado warning out there till 8:30 p.m., and there is some rotation associated with that. As we look at some of the rotation, does show that there's a little area of rotation looking very close here. That's along Route 30 just east of Plymouth. So there is some rotation associated with the atmosphere, a very favorable atmosphere, so to speak, for rotation to continue. So we're going to continue to watch this. No active alerts in our area, so let's bring it back into northwest Ohio. And you may be wondering, what has been unfolding today? What a major difference we have just across the area. We've got 40s across southern Michigan, low 50s in northwest Ohio, Bowling Green. Quick trip down I-75. It's in the mid-60s, 66 degrees and low 70s. This is where the atmosphere is much more unstable across the far southern extent of our viewing area, and it will continue to remain more unstable the farther south we go. Temperature-wise, closer to the I-70 corridor, 79 degrees in Indianapolis. It is extremely warm south of us, and that is going to fuel the chance of storms and severe weather. So officially, it's a tornado watch west of our viewing area, which is why we're on WTOL 11 Plus right now, giving you that early heads up of the weather that's going to be headed toward us. Strong to severe storms really from the Michigan-Indiana state line all the way down, and we're talking south of the Ohio River, where an extreme threat, an outbreak of tornadoes is occurring, and I'll have more on that coming up in just a little bit. What is our weather impact? Several rounds of storms still going to be possible tonight. Had some earlier today. It really doused and soaked the area. That greatest risk is going to be after, well, this moment right now. And the reason why is because that atmosphere is becoming a little more unstable. That thunderstorm fuel or energy that's been pumping now out of the Ohio River Valley is finally making its way into northwest Ohio up to about the state line. And that is going to be the instability or the energy for the resulting severe weather threat. Now, I mentioned it's not just us. It's from the lower Great Lakes region. There is a massive outbreak of tornadoes that's occurring right now in northeastern Arkansas, headed into western Tennessee. There are multiple tornadoes on the ground as we speak, not in our area, but down across Arkansas and into western Tennessee. Part of the same system where that energy is feeding up into the Ohio River Valley region. So what are our risks for tonight? High wind gusts that are going to come into the area. That's really going to pick up between now and 10 p.m. That could reach to about 70 miles per hour, hail up to 1.5 inches in diameter. And at this point, we'll just say possible tornadoes could be resulting from these storms. So I'm going to give you a preview of the hour-by-hour forecast. It's slowed just a little bit on the timing. Between now and 10 p.m. is when those storms arrive to the west. They're going to move east fairly quickly. These are moving 60 to 65 miles per hour. My concern here as we approach 11 o'clock, this is well after dark. You may be thinking about going to bed at this point. Strong to severe storms entering into the area could bring widespread wind damage, the threat of rotation, and large hail with any of these storms. So you may want to make sure that car is parked indoors. Through midnight, the storms basically going to be on us very quickly from the state line to the I-75 corridor. Remember, they're moving at 60 to 65 miles an hour. By midnight, they're crossing from Monroe, Toledo, Bowling Green down through Findlay. And again, wind damage, rotation in any of these cells will be a possibility. When will we be all clear? They're going to move to the east as we go through midnight. Here's 1 to 2 a.m. Storms will be exiting, but really torrential downpours going to be possible with all those storms, and that is going to be the risk of flooding that is going to be on the rise as well. How about power outages? This is a concern as well. Really a moderate risk of power outages with all the rain that we've had. The ground is saturated. Winds over 60 miles per hour could topple trees, and a lot of lightning that's going to be likely tonight, so be prepared for power outages. Things will calm back as we get into Thursday, so we're fortunate that we'll get to the end of the stormy weather overnight tonight. Jeff, Kaylee, it is going to be a long evening tonight with widespread storms that will be possible.
Chris, we were talking about it off cam here a little bit ago, and you were saying just this vast, long stretch of storms that we're seeing. It's been a while since you said you've seen something like
Yeah,
this.
in particular, we knew that there was a really high risk of storms well to our south and to our west. This is a large area, Jeff, and we suspect that there will be several strong tornadoes. That could mean EF3 or greater down across Arkansas, western Tennessee, and into Kentucky. It's going to be a long night, perhaps not just for us, but for people down in the mid-Mississippi River Valley as well.
Chris pointed it out. He was talking about, you may be thinking about going to bed, but, the hours that we're talking about could be a concern.
Chris, is there any possibility for hail from this?
I do think so. This time of the year, the atmosphere, especially just above the surface, is colder than usual. So hailstones about 1.5 inches in diameter. That could be ping pong ball sized hail that we may be experiencing across the area. We're monitoring very close for any of those reports, and we could throw them up right here too. And we had some storm reports this morning, large hail about quarter size in diameter that came across the area earlier. These are the latest wind reports, and it does look like we've got some embedded hail in there, but all this is going to be rolling toward us as we go through the next several hours between now and about midnight.
Chris, you also brought up something before we get to the rest of our team coverage with John. I wanted to ask about instability because you brought that up earlier today. You said, we were expecting the temperatures to start to rise, but that is happening later in the afternoon hours. How are things playing out as far as that's concerned?
It's been a little slower, and that can happen this time of the year. We expected that sometime in the afternoon that warm front would arrive in our area. It took to about the evening, but still now ingredients are in place. So where did that warm and humid air come from? All the way out of the Gulf, it came streaming up into the Ohio River Valley, and eventually that instability has now made it up to about the Ohio-Michigan state line, where we are seeing now some of those conditions that will be more favorable for storms that will feed into some of that energy. So we're going to have a long night to go with the storm energy. And look at that, pretty fine line has now made it up to about the Ohio-Michigan state line. So these areas that are shaded in the yellow, a little bit more unstable or apt to be producing strong or severe storms. And that really is reflected in the current temperatures. And if you look at this, it's amazing, guys, when you look at this map, right? If you're in Monroe, it's 46 degrees, 66 Bowling Green, and 72 in Findlay. A massive difference in people that have been around Northwest Ohio and Southern Michigan long enough. They know when we get these sharp changes in the weather like this, we could have some very volatile situations.
Chris, I know too, I had a migraine this morning. Just the pressure changes that we're experiencing right now are rough too.
It is a rough. I had a cup of coffee or two. It took that headache away from me, so that helped out. But that can happen when we get those pressure changes. This is a very strong system, and that's why we've got severe weather, not only from the Great Lakes region, all the way down into the Mississippi River Valley.
Chris, we'll check in with you here again in just a bit.
We want to check in with meteorologist John Birchfield. John, you're tracking more of the timing on this and when this is going to hit Northwest Ohio. What are you tracking for us?
Yeah, Kaylee, there's never really an ideal timing for severe weather, but due to the late evening and even nocturnal overnight time frame, this is one you'll want to make sure you have multiple ways to get weather alerts, especially with these storms rolling in after dark. And I understand this will be rolling in past your normal bedtime, but please stay on high alert this evening. There has been a tornado watch that has been issued to the west of us, and that extends all the way up to the Indiana-Ohio state line. There is the possibility that that does get extended further eastward towards the I-75 I-75 corridor over the next couple of hours. But as Chris pointed out, the worst of these storms expected to be here between about 9 p.m. to 2 a.m. So with that overnight time frame, you can always get your weather alerts on our free WTOL 11 weather app and a NOAA weather radio, also another great alternative for getting those weather alerts and staying up to date. So our active warnings are still a couple hundred miles away to the west of us. In Kosciuszko County, Indiana, we are seeing some thunderstorm warnings. That is almost directly overhead of the National Weather Service Northern Indiana office. And to give you an idea of the potency of these thunderstorms, they have been tagged with considerable damage, and that indicates the potential for some strong winds, not only 60 miles an hour, but possibly even 70 miles per hour. And also with that tornado possible tag, any storm in this line will have enough wind shear or turning in the atmosphere that it could be rotating in addition to the straight wind threat, could produce a brief tornado as well. Lots of lightning also embedded with this. These storms are really going to make a statement. You're going to hear them from many miles away, and Doppler radar currently detecting 335 lightning strikes. So quite the light show rolling in from the west, and a couple lightning strikes now approaching the Indiana-Ohio state line as these storms rapidly approach. Such a dynamic weather system with that warm front located almost right atop the Ohio-Michigan state line right now, and it's really in what we call the warm sector, or that area between the warm front and the cold front, where all of these storms are firing. Each one of those pink polygons indicates a tornado warning, and believe it or not, the worst of the severe weather impacts are expected to the south of us, spanning from southern and central Indiana down towards southern Illinois, Missouri, Arkansas, and Tennessee as well. And we're really not going to be totally in the clear until that cold front clears on through, and essentially that cold front just squashes any remaining instability in the atmosphere. So we're going to work through the moist and humid atmosphere before that cold front sweeps on through, likely after about 2 o'clock a.m. An enhanced level 3 out of 5 risk remains in effect for us here at home, but that rare high risk of severe weather, including Memphis, and it's very rare that those are issued, especially relatively early on in the severe weather season. Now, in addition to the severe threat, we are watching the potential for some localized flash flooding. Doppler radar indicates several inches of rainfall already happened earlier today, with those soaking downpours that came through late this morning into the early afternoon time frame, and those bright red colors that you see out towards Erie and Huron counties into Sandusky and Seneca counties, that shows you 2 to 3 inch rainfall totals. So there is going to be the potential for high water, even some standing water in your basement as a result of these downpours. In Seneca County, Doppler radar estimating 3.2 inches of rain earlier, and south of Norwalk a little over 2 inches. And as we look out to the west of Toledo near Defiance, 2 to 2.5 inches of rainfall. So we are also expecting some torrential and soaking rain in addition to the severe weather threat. Now, earlier storm reports in the day predominantly of the variety of hail. As Chris mentioned, we could see some large damaging hail with this system, but I think the biggest threats are going to be the straight line winds and the tornado threat as well. Now, that tornado watch that has been issued to the west of us, essentially a watch means that conditions are favorable for tornadoes to develop. That has not yet been extended into northwest Ohio, but if it is, we will let you know on air on WTOL 11. You can always see that scroll at the bottom of your screen where there's a watch in effect. Essentially, that means conditions are favorable, and we're keeping a close eye on potential tornadoes in the mix. Now, tornado safety. We always talk about this during severe weather, and we get a lot of questions, and I understand not all folks have basements to seek refuge during tornadoes. You're going to want to, if you don't have a basement, get away from doors and windows. An interior room towards the middle of your home is going to be the best bet for staying safe during a tornado warning. If you have no basement, an interior room on the lowest floor, oftentimes a bathtub or a closet, is going to be your best bet without a basement to seek shelter. And a tornado safety kit, always something to get ready ahead of time, especially with these evening and overnight time frame storm systems. And we'll be sure to show you these severe weather safety tips if there are any warnings that are issued. But now is the time to prepare, as we're still a couple hours away from the worst of the impacts. So what impacts are we expecting for the remainder of the evening? I think the strong gusty winds in 60 to 70 miles an hour going to be likely the biggest widespread threat. Additionally, heavy flooding rain is possible, especially in those areas that were already inundated with a couple of inches of rainfall earlier today. And the tornado threat, certainly a very real possibility. I would say the tornado risk is probably the greatest south and west of the Toledo metro, but nobody's totally out of the woods. And no matter where you're tuning in from, you'll want to stay on high weather alert this evening. That hour by hour timeline, of course, being after dark, it's really hard to see what's going on in the sky. You've just got to rely on Doppler radar. And with this overnight time frame, you're going to want to have ways that are going to get you those weather alerts. And and get you the tornado warnings if there are any that are issued. So our weather app's a great way, NOAA weather radio, and of course on air and on WTOL 11+. This line of storm is going to be approaching the Toledo metro between about 11 p.m. and midnight, and then it's going to be moving to the east of the I-75 corridor. That cold front that I pointed out is going to sweep in after 2 o'clock a.m., and that'll finally bring us to the all clear point, but it is going to take several hours for us to get to that point. And again, as our weather alert impact alert day continues, that thunderstorm threat continues. Scattered showers taper off overnight, and the weather for tomorrow is generally going to be a little bit calmer and milder as well, but still a number of hours of active severe weather are expected. We're watching that tornado watch to the west of us, and we'll see if there's any eastward extension of that. But keeping a very close eye on the severe threat, and certainly a lot to get to in the next couple of hours.
John is a runner. Endurance is never an issue with this man. We appreciate the insight, obviously taking us step by step. And the timing, interesting. And I'll tell you what, you start thinking about the kids going to bed early. You start thinking about parents doing their normal routine. This might be one of those nights where you kind of sleep with one eye open, and make sure, as John said, you have that WTOL 11 weather app downloaded, John, because I think we've found out, and you have even talked to some of the weather spotters in this area before, and even sheriff departments who have said maybe just that little bit of advance warning is all the difference sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the tornado sirens are obviously a very useful tool, but you need to have multiple ways. So if you do have the weather app, make sure that phone is turned up to maximum volume, and make sure it's not in airplane mode tonight for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, thanks, John. We are going to check back in with Chief Meteorologist Chris Vickers. Chris, John spoke about it a little bit, but the storm being in the dark makes it adds an extra level. People aren't seeing those funnel clouds come towards them.
And that's the thing, Jeff, you kind of mentioned it too. You know, we don't want people out there trying to spot these storms. You're just not going to be able to see them coming. They're going to be coming too quick, 60 to 65 miles an hour, and they're going to be coming too late. We're already after dark. No chance that you're going to be out there. There will be quite a bit of lightning that will kind of illuminate the sky. But when you get the alert, we're going to want you to seek shelter in your safe place. We do suspect that we may have some storms that we're going to contend with. So I want to get into the weeds on this one. What are we going to be expecting as far as impacts with this? Winds that may gust 70 miles per hour or greater, because these are some storms that will generate some of the winds that are aloft in the atmosphere that are moving a little bit more robust and higher. They're moving at about 80, 90, 100 miles an hour just above the surface. We get a few storms that draw that wind down. We could get wind damage, widespread swaths of it in excess of 70 miles per hour. In fact, we saw it Sunday night in Indiana and southwest Michigan. We were very fortunate. Parts of Williams and Hillsdale County had some wind damage, but it was not anything incredibly major. Hail, Kaylee asked about this, 1.5 inches in diameter, so think of ping pong balls or such that would be falling from the sky, could have some large hail. And we just don't know where, but possible tornado risk will exist as we go through and into the evening tonight. So have that WTOL 11 weather app ready to go. In fact, I want multiple ways for you to have a way to get an alert, especially if you kind of close an eye tonight and you're looking to get some rest. And here's why. We've got a pretty interesting situation that's ongoing. Mentioned the low to mid 70s. If you're watching right now down in Upper Sandusky, it's 74 degrees. You step outside, you're in a t-shirt and shorts and maybe flip-flops. 72 in Findlay, 74 in Ottawa. So the 224 corridor up to about Route 6 BG, we're seeing the temperatures fluctuate between the 70s and 50s. So we've got a warm front that's stalled out across the area. One thing that concerns me, and I'll kind of dive into this, is when we have a boundary like this, it can enhance the spin in the atmosphere. So this is an area I'm going to watch very close, right across the central portion of our viewing area. If we do get some storms that rotate and spin, I'm going to suspect they're going to be along and south of this boundary. So this is going to be our area of a greater tornado risk that will exist tonight. Still a lot of warm, moist air that's just south of us, upper 70s to near 80 degrees down across Dayton, back over toward Indianapolis. So where the storms are now, they're making progress across central Indiana. As it stands, we have a tornado watch that goes up to the Ohio and Indiana state line, but it is a much more dire situation. It is a rare sight to see how many tornado warnings are actually occurring right now. John mentioned this a little bit. Here's Memphis, Tennessee, and if you can look, each one of these polygon boxes here, sort of that purple magenta, indicates a tornado warning. So between Jonesboro and Memphis, we've got over a half a dozen, perhaps up to about 8 to 10 tornado warnings that are active right now. This is an area that was targeted as the highest risk of this severe weather event, a level 5 out of 5. high risk for severe weather. Here's Paducah, Kentucky. Tornado warnings that extend west of Paducah up into central Indiana. In fact, we get a little closer to home. Here's Indianapolis. Remember, it's close to 80 degrees here. There's a tornado warning toward the Illinois-Indiana state line. So there is rotation. These storms have exhibited the potential for some rotation that is showing up as these storms continue to march eastward. So a little bit closer to home. So here's Fort Wayne. There's one tornado warning west of Fort Wayne that continues to show some signs of rotation. We remain under an enhanced level 3 out of 5 risk of some strong to severe storms, and those storms are expected to continue to march toward us. As it stands now, there's the tornado watch. It extends across the I-69 interstate up to the Ohio and Indiana border. So at this point, we have no active alerts, which is why we could get a little bit deeper here on WTOL 11 Plus, diving into what's actually going on in the atmosphere that could produce the risk of strong to severe storms tonight. We fully expect that we're likely to get some sort of extension of a watch into northwest Ohio. No indications yet that that is going to be imminent, but it could be coming in the next 60 minutes. So we'll watch very close for that. How about the hour-by-hour forecast? You may be thinking, all right, I do want to get some sleep tonight. When are these storms coming through? They've slowed a little bit in some cases. We're expecting by about 10 p.m. they're going to be making their way into northwest Ohio. So here's the clock, 10 p.m., and we've got some signatures showing up on the hour-by-hour forecast that would indicate these storms are very much capable of producing widespread wind damage in excess of 60 to 70 miles per hour. The storms will continue to move to the east. Again, they're moving at about the rate that you'd be driving down the interstate. 60 miles per hour is how quick these storms are moving. So they're going to go from the state line to almost the Toledo Metro in about an hour's time. So we're going to have this closer to 11 p.m. These storms are going to be racing into the I-75 corridor, Toledo, Bowling Green, down through Findlay, over toward Allen County, down around Lima. And they're going to continue then through midnight because there's still going to be some storm energy. And remember that boundary I talked about could be draped right across the center portion of our area. That's where we could get a few notches in this line where some rotation could occur with any of these particular cells. So we will monitor that for at least the potential of some rotation and possible tornadic activity. When are we going to be clear of this? If you want to get some sleep tonight, may not be until about 2 a.m. that we see that clear on out. And the front itself comes through before daybreak, and it will flush eventually some of the really humid weather that's generated into the area out of the region. 60s is what we've got for highs into Thursday. It's going to be a cooler day by Friday, 51. More rain is going to come into the area Friday night and into Saturday. Now, my big concern, we're getting rain tonight. We had rain earlier today, more rain Friday into Saturday. We may see a significant rising flooding concern to moderate to major flooding that could occur on some of our area rivers. And I know, Jeff, you actually brought this up earlier today. You were talking about some of our area rivers. They're going to be swollen pretty quick.
Yeah, and we got out and we had a conversation or two or three with some of the walleye fishermen who were out there who were having to batten down the hatches tonight out there on the Maumee River at their campsites. Chris, I had a question specific to the radar. And I don't know if there's any perfect science to this for us who are naive just looking at it and trying to make sense of it. But if you look from point to point and where I guess the progression of the storm front is right now, can you physically pick out a point on the map? Like, let's say you see kind of an angle and it could potentially make its way to Toledo from the point it's at now and how this storm is traveling. Is there any perfect direction to a storm? Can you map that?
We can extrapolate that, yes, because once these storms form, they generally move in a fairly predictable manner. We know they're moving in the northeast direction at about 60 to 65 miles an hour. So we isolate areas that are a little more concerning in northern Indiana right now, and we say, all right, this is going to be headed to the north and to the east at 60 miles per hour, could arrive towards, let's say, Williams or Hillsdale or Defiance County, perhaps in the next hour to hour and a half, and then they'll continue to race eastward. Jeff, I also mentioned in Kaylee that boundary that's set up across the area. Anytime we see a boundary like that, that can enhance sort of the spin in the atmosphere because the winds tend to dance around that boundary, so to speak. They're coming in from the south in one direction, the northeast in another direction. That low-level spin is what could create some rotation in a few of those storms.
You also said today, I asked a question about these things picking up speed. I mean, you take a stone, you roll it down a hill, it picks up speed. Are these storms the same kind of animal?
Once they reach kind of their peak intensity, they kind of hit that full stride, so to speak. They reach peak intensity. They'll maintain generally that speed until they begin to weaken. But Kaylee, we're not expecting that until after midnight. The storm threat may be weakening.
So this peak intensity is not going to be hitting Toledo or Northwest Ohio.
It's going to be close, though. It will be close because even though we're after dark right now, we're still drawing some of that warmer air up into this system. So I'm going to have people really going to be on alert for those storms through midnight until we give you the all clear, which may not be until about 2 a.m. We're going to be under the watchful eye of where those storms will be.
Chris, John, when he was on, he brought up some safety tips for folks out there. I guess we're getting some questions. Producer Josh letting us know that we're getting some questions as far as safety is concerned in mobile home villages or mobile homes. And what do we tell people at this point? And I think John is getting prepared with some of those graphics again.
Yeah, we'll have John cover that coming up in just a few moments, but exactly right, where you need to be for safekeeping. You don't want to be by anywhere with windows or anywhere above, on a second floor or somewhere where, you could be exposed to flying debris. So tornado safety tips, you want to avoid those windows. Go ahead and get in the basement if you can. I get the common question. You're right. It's a mobile home. We don't have a basement. We're in an apartment. Best thing that you could do at that point is really, if you know somebody that does and you're concerned about maybe getting to sleep tonight, if you can maybe join a family member or stay the night in somewhere. We always like to say, nights like this aren't all that common. It's a minor inconvenience overall. It's, a few nights a year that we have weather that could be this dangerous.
Absolutely. And obviously, we've got this window. That's why we're on right now, because we're seeing this amount of time that we have before we're actually impacted by any of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a little bit of time, which kind of gives us a chance to dive a little bit deeper into what we're expecting with this. So we're looking forward to kind of continuing our coverage, and we'll continue it on air and here on WTO11 Plus as it does warrant.
All right, Chris, thank you for all that information. Remember, you can download our WTOL11 weather app. It is free on your Android and iPhone stores. You can download it. Our team of meteorologists will send you updates minute by minute, hour by hour. Make sure tonight you have your ringer all the way up. We will send you those alerts that you need. You cannot solely rely on those tornado sirens, but our team will send you updates and alerts as needed tonight.
You can continue to monitor WTOL11, of course, WTOL.com, and of course, right here, we will come on the air as need be on WTOL 11 Plus, bringing you the latest information. Right now, as John and Chris pointed out, tornado watch in Indiana. Nothing has pushed eastward into Northwest Ohio, correct, John? We're still at that point.
Still correct, yeah.
Still at that point where we don't have that kind of watch. As this weather moves through, it will warrant the National Weather Service to issue those alerts, and as soon as they do, we'll let you know.
We're going to bring John and Chris back in. Guys, any kind of closing thoughts here or any message you want to let people know right now?
One thing that I did just get in, there was a new severe thunderstorm warning that was issued across northern Indiana, and this one is going to go out there till 9:30. It actually takes us right up to about Williams County. It is tagged a considerable risk, so you're going to see that right there. What does that mean? It means that they suspect that winds could reach up to 70 miles per hour. No immediate indication that we have imminent rotation, but it does have a tag or a threat tag on there that says a tornado is possible because the environment is favorable for that. This continues to move to the east-northeast about 60 to 65 miles per hour. So it is going to be headed across Indiana. Here's Fort Wayne. There's I-69. That is a pretty long-lasting tornado warning between now and 9:30 with, again, that considerable tag. We're going to see the potential of wind damage with that in particular. And if we look toward the winds that are racing across here, this is kind of an examination inside that thunderstorm. Here's the leading edge of some of those winds that's racing through northern Indiana, and that's going to take it up to the Defiance and Williams County line, up into Hillsdale as well. That would be within about 60 minutes. We're going to see that quickly make its progress across northeastern Indiana. So that's some brand new data that did come in just a few moments ago. At this point, though, there are no active tornado warnings across northern Indiana, so that's maybe a bit of good news as well, as a few of these clusters have kind of just fought a little bit for what energy is in the atmosphere. So we'll keep a close eye on that, guys.
All right, thanks, Chris. John, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, these storms definitely packing a punch. We're always keeping an eye on the National Weather Service chat because there's trained storm spotters and emergency managers who can submit reports and give us an idea of just how the storms are living up to what we're noticing on Doppler radar. And we have seen some reports come in, including parts of northern Indiana with these severe thunderstorms, including some structural damages to homes near the city of Warsaw. So that's right around where the National Weather Service northern Indiana office is in Kosciuszko County. And now these storms are approaching the state line. line. And as Chris pointed out, they do have that considerable tag with gusts to 70 miles an hour possible. So there were a couple tornado warnings earlier in northern Indiana. Right now, it is the strong straight line winds that are the biggest threat, but even straight line winds can still be devastating, especially when they get in that ballpark of 60, 70, or even greater in terms of the miles per hour. And with those being just to the west of the state line, as we pointed out earlier, Jeff, now's the time to turn on those weather alerts and make sure you have a way of getting those warnings, because I have a feeling warnings are going to be imminent for northwest Ohio and lower Michigan.
Yeah, as the crow flies and as these storms start to make their way into our western counties, especially northwest Ohio, southeast Michigan. John, thanks. Hey, just a reminder, you can text us any photos of storm damage or interesting weather that you see roll through western counties, southeast Michigan. It's coming your way. 419-248-1100. That's where you send those photos. We are watching for any messages that you share with us, and you just might see them featured either on air or possibly even online. So please, if you have, we want your safety to be of the utmost, but
yes,
if you have an opportunity to grab something and share it with the audience, maybe give them a heads up as to what's coming.
Not only that, but it does help our team of meteorologists to see just how extensive some of this damage also is on the ground from people's point of view of how things can be. You can also scan that QR code. You can connect with us. We'll be streaming on WTOL 11 Plus online and YouTube. We'll be live on WTOL 11 if there is an active tornado throughout the night. We will keep you updated throughout the night on WTOL 11 Plus, and if you have that WTOL 11 weather app.
Make sure to follow WTOL 11 on YouTube, as she said, TikTok, also Facebook for the latest developments. For Chris and John and the entire team, for Kaylee Marantat, I'm Jeff Smith. Great to have you with us here on WTOL 11 Plus. We'll continue to update you as the need warrants.